Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Tuesday, the 8th of March, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, I'm going to tell you guys what. All morning, all day, most of the day, I was without power. And I run my house off electric heat, so I had to start up a generator. And power finally come back on late in the day, Had to put everything away again. Anyway, we had a big windstorm. And I say some of the gusts were hurricane force or darn close to it. But anyway, we've been experiencing weird weather phenomenon over the last year. Now, there's a lot going on in the world right now with this war over in Ukraine, which could extend out for quite a long period of time. We're going to have to wait and see, but, I don't think the Russians are going to give up. And it's kind of almost like it's some sort of Mexican standoff or something, if you guys don't know what a Mexican standoff is, Anyway, a lot of you do know what a Mexican standoff is, so I'm not going to bother trying to explain it. We are more than ever right now heading toward the hyperinflation that I've been talking about for years. You see those fuel prices going up like daily? This is an oil-based economy. But it is doing a couple other things that's happening because of this. When oil prices get high like this, it makes it very profitable to drill for oil. And there's large reserves out there. In the Permian Oil Basin out in West Texas, they have rather large reserves, but the thing about it is they're a little bit deeper and it costs a little bit more money. But now that's not a problem anymore suddenly, because the money's there. I mean, when oil was selling for, remember $60 a barrel there? Wasn't that long ago, guys, just a few months ago. It wasn't enough to meet their profit margin to dig for deeper oil. But suddenly, ping, ching, the price is more than doubled. Yeah. Suddenly there's going to be a lot of digging going on. And also, it makes the tar sands here in Canada more profitable to extract the oil from the tar sands. That's expensive, that oil that comes from the tar sands, because they have to extract it. But something that a lot of people don't know out there is the tar sand oil is I think personally, this is my opinion only, but I think it's the largest reserve left on Earth of oil. The Saudis had a massive reserve. I think it was like over 200 billion barrels. Am I quoting that right? Right. And the tar sands, I think, was 196. But the Saudis have been sucking from theirs for many, many, many years. And some of their wells out there, I've heard in Saudi, they're having to pressurize them with water in order to bring the oil up now, wasn't like that, I mean, some people argue that oil is a renewable resource and the earth creates it. I don't believe that's true. Those oil reserves have been down there all along, and they're massive. But once you suck them dry, they're gone. Kind of the same way with gold and silver. So let's talk about gold and silver for a minute. You guys seen the explosive moves in the price to the upside? It's taking a lot longer than I thought it would. But once silver passes that $30 mark, there's nothing but blue sky up, up, up from there. Then they're losing control now of the price of gold and silver, finally. Boy, they were able to suppress it for a long time, but it's turning from a negative sentiment toward gold and silver that we were in for a long time to a very positive sentiment. But there's none out there hardly to be had. You might have to, if you guys are going to buy silver right now, you might have to settle for things that you might not have purchased 6 months ago. Different types of silver, that are what's ever available, more or less, is now what we're getting down to, because they're selling out of a lot of product. This is the first time ever I checked my local silver dealer and they're out of inventory. They do have some Canadian maple leafs. It says coming soon. But gosh knows how long soon will be. It might be 6 weeks. It might be 8. I don't know. It might be a week. But that's the first time ever I've went there and they were sold out of silver coin. I found that interesting in the last day or two, too. So, we've been through a hard time, and now we're heading toward a hyperinflation. And that's going to be the worst time yet because it's going to hit everybody, all the middle class people, lower middle class people, and poor people. It's going to hit you right in your pocketbooks when food prices start to really go up. And all these food prices out here now are connected to the oil price. Because everything in this oil-based economy we have, food production, take a look at the farmers. You say, well, my food's not made out of oil, but yeah, it is kind of in a way because they have to buy fuel for their tractors and all the parts that they buy have to be shipped, and shipping costs energy. Everything comes down to energy or is energy related, and we derive most of our energy from oil or oil-based products. And now there's going to be shortages and price is going to go up and up. I just noticed today I had to buy gas today. And I got less, a couple cups. I only bought $10, but I mean, it's barely getting so it buys me a gallon. And of course, that's 18 miles, and then I got to fill up again. Say, cheapskate, put more than $10 in. Well, yeah, I keep my tank topped off. That's basically the size of it. I don't let it go. It starts to go down at least a little bit now. In troubled times like these, and every time I drive it someplace, I top it off. Because right now this is a good idea to do. If you guys are out there right now, I would suggest doing that with your cars too, keeping the gas tank topped off. Because you don't know what's going to hit next around the corner. Like this morning, I woke up and everything's black, and there's no internet, no power, no nothing. I don't know what the heck was going on. For all I know, they could have pushed the big red button. For all I know, And so anyway, I checked my phone and I seen internet was on, so I said, "Oh, good, we're still here." What times we live in right now. So we're gonna. I think what's gonna happen is I think if we get over this war, we're gonna bounce right into hyperinflation, and so it's gonna be sort of like jumping out of the frying pan into the fire because hyperinflation is not gonna be fun, guys. I'm telling you guys what. When the people start to go hungry, this is when we get a situation, and fear can trigger it too. So two things can trigger a massive shift in all the people out there, and that shift can be, well, it's one thing, when you get large group of people who are dissatisfied, and they go out and they write posters on poster board and stuff, and they go out there and they stand in the street and chant, we want this or we want that, right? And it's a percentage of the population that's doing that, maybe a few thousand, but that only represents a percentage of the larger population, and most of the people are just ignoring it and not doing that, protests or whatever, right? They're not taking part. But when it really starts to cut deep, the situation that the world is with a slow collapse like this of the whole entire system, and people can't feed themselves, and they get these two things happen at the same time, fear and hunger, as motivating forces, then it's not going to be so much a small percentage of the population. It starts to be the majority of the population is basically up in arms or very upset. And that's when things change, and change fast. And the harder the people are pushed, The less happy they are, the more fearful they are, and the more hungry they are, the more dangerous an explosion of this can happen quickly overnight. And this brings about change, massive amounts of change. And heaven forbid, if something like that were to happen, a massive amount of people suddenly discontented, full of fear and hungry, and they all take to the streets. It's more than likely the internet's going to go down and the power grid's going to go down. There's a high probability of it. And the people could cause that to happen. And once that happens, then disorder comes. On top of, and this increases the amount of fear and increases the amount of hunger. And the next thing you know, you got a system that's in utter chaos. Basically, what you'd call it, the STF or whatever it's called. That's basically what I'm talking about here. And this could all happen. The way things are spiraling out of control right now, wars triggering it, diseases and plagues triggering it, food shortages triggering it. This could all happen before the end of 2022. And if you're not prepared for things like this, if you haven't taken the time to put some bottled water away, some food away, and prepared yourself mentally and so on, when the internet and the power goes out, then the world starts to, doesn't overnight. I mean, the first day or two it wouldn't. And even probably a week in, it probably wouldn't. People would be waiting, trying to find out what the news is, what's going to happen, when's the power going to come back on. They're waiting in their homes, and they're being, the majority of population is still being relatively polite and everything else, relatively calm. But after it starts to extend out a period of time, and they start to come out of their homes, that's when the real chaos could begin if they cannot get the power back on. Years ago, they did a movie, and it made an impression upon me because it was something that I had never considered up until that point in time. And the movie was called The Trigger Effect. I think it was made in the late 1990s or around the year 2000. Anyway, it's called The Trigger Effect was the name of the movie. And what the movie was really based on, about, not so much based on, but what the movie was about was that for some reason or another, over a wide area, like several states size area, big area, the power grid just goes down and stays down. And that's what happens. After a few weeks goes by, the people go crazy. They can't get news. They don't know what's going on within that zone where the area where the power grid's out. They see other people starting to go crazy, and it spreads like a virus. The craziness. And then what happens is they, in effect, tear the system apart to the point where you can't restore the grid or get things going again. And, of course, they would run out of food. They'd run out of medicine. They'd run out of everything. Water, especially. Do you know that a person can't go more than 48 hours without having something to drink? You'll get dehydrated and die. A person can go up to 40 days without food before they starve. But without water, and that's an immediate need, is water. And so if you get a crisis like this, I mean, what are you going to do? You go over, you turn your tap off, and all you get's a gurgling sound, the power's out. What are you going to do? What if you've got a drilled well or something, and you got there's a pump down there that pumps the water up? How are you going to get that water to push up? And even if you're on city water supply, They have those big tanks up in the air. You ever seen them? Big steel tanks holding the water up? That gives pressure even if the power's out. But those tanks, they empty after a while if they don't pump more water up there. And also they have secondary systems run off of big diesel generators. But they can run out of diesel fuel after a little while. And so they do have some backup systems in the cities. But that ain't going to last forever, the backup system. It's not made to be a permanent system. And not only that, a lot of times when they start those backup systems up, the water comes out of your tap all brown. It smells like an old dead dog. And then they say, oh, we got a boil order out, Wouldn't it be nicer for you personally if you had some bottled water put away to drink rather than have to drink that boiled brown water that comes out of the tap when they put the emergency systems on? I mean, we're heading into troubled times right now, and we're heading there fast. And you got to think about preps now at this point. But depending on how troubled the times get, I mean, your location might start to come into play as well, not just preps, I would envy people who don't have close neighbors, or a lot of close neighbors, or living in the more urban the setting that you're living in, the closer you are to all these other people out there. In a situation like that, it becomes more dangerous. The more people that there are. There's these things to consider as well. Got to keep your eye on the news. Keep your eye on what's happening. And thank you guys for listening to my show. And we'll catch you guys in the very next episode. And hopefully I'll be able to do a market report tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have power. Bye-bye, guys.